What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Rewind here on the Wayward World podcast. And welcome back indeed. This is the first episode, at least like publishing wise. This is the first episode after the hiatus, and boy, there was a lot of shit going on in, in July. It's kind of crazy how much like was going on in July. Trump almost got shot. I mean, he got shot, but like he didn't die, unfortunately. Kamala Harris is running for president now, which is like crazy. What else is going on? I got a tattoo on my shoulder, right there. It's my boy RX, RX 24, aka Captain Rex from Star Tours. And what else is going on? God, so much stuff happened in July, but I'm happy to be back. Happy to do drag or interview other drag artists that I really like. This is a trans drag artist, a trans drag goddess. That was a really mouthful to say, but she's in Bellingham, but she has a long history of doing drag here in Spokane, and she knows a lot of previous guests on the show. Please welcome Sage Valentine. How are you doing, Sage?
I am doing fabulous this evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. You are like one of the first ever like just like strangers that like reached out and went like, "Oh yeah, I want to be on this show." And I was like, "Oh, that's actually kind of cool." But like I'm very excited to have you on because like I have been following you for a bit. Our mutuals like Faye and Fanny DeVito, Miss Chris Rose, like they all know who you are. So um, tell me like a little bit about yourself and like tell the wayward artists out there a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So Sage Valentine is a trans drag goddess. She's a pop princess. She is just the goddess of the sun. That is honestly, if I could describe my drag in like one word, it's goddess, because that is how I like to embody my drag character and how I like to embody anytime I perform or I'm hosting. I'm just a goddess at the end of the day. And um Sage, she's a ode to the powerful feminine figures that have uplifted me and inspired me throughout my life. And so Sage Valentine is just she's just a ray of sunshine.
Mhm. Oh yeah, for sure. I liked how you like introduced like the deity portion of like your drag, especially since like trans goddess, like specifically in the drag scene, like that gets occupied a lot. Specifically, Mother Sasha Colby has described
Oh
herself
my God.
also as a trans goddess. But like, why do you think it was so important to you to describe yourself specifically as a like otherworldly or like a higher being when you're in drag? Like, how did you get from that point?
Well, it actually kind of started from a very famous RuPaul quote. I think it was on like Jimmy Kimmel or something, where RuPaul said that like drag doesn't hide who you are, it actually reveals who you are. And I think like I think when I first heard that, I like it made me think, and I was like, wait, what about Sage like brings stuff like from the inside outside, you know? And so for me in drag, it it gives me so much confidence and so much like self empowerment. And that's honestly kind of where it came from, was that like whole self-empowerment moment of like bringing my inner goddess out into the reality, to the real world. And that's kind of just the pinnacle of my drag, is just bringing out my inner goddess into reality.
Oh, that's really cool. Especially like knowing like your trans identity too. Like I'm sure drag also really helped you like discover that as well. Like let's go back to like the beginning because you're in Bellingham. You know, specifically like our very close friend is Faye, who is my best friend. I knew Faye in college and we dated like for a week. But
Oh,
no, Faye's like my
deep.
best friend. Yeah, Faye's my best friend. I love her and I love Andy as well. But you were did drag in Spokane, specifically at the iconic and rest in peace, the Pin. Where how did you get your footing into the drag scene here in Spokane specifically?
So it's kind of a little bit of an interesting story. So at around like age like 15, 16, I was kind of first coming into my queerness, and I was a teen, so there was a lot I had to learn about myself. And one of the TV shows I watched was I Am Jazz. And for Jazz's 16th birthday, she went to a drag show for for like her sweet 16. And I was like, oh my God, like that's so cool. Like I really want to do that. But at the time, like the Spokane drag scene wasn't like super visible. It was like very underground. You kind of had to know, yeah, you kind of had to know certain people to like really know like where the shows are at, when they're happening and everything. And so I didn't end up having my Sweet 16 at a drag show. And there was also that added layer of like a lot of shows are in 21 plus spaces. I was like 15, 16. So, I couldn't go to the bars and go to a show. And then one fateful evening, I was just scrolling on Instagram, and one of my friends from high school had posted a poster for an all ages drag show at the Pin. And better yet, it was a Beyonce Lady Gaga themed show. And I was like, oh my God, this is my moment to finally see drag. Because I had also really been a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, and I feel like a lot of like queer people my age, like that is often their first introduction to drag is RuPaul's Drag Race. And so when I was able to finally see drag, like not just on my TV screen, but like in person, I was like, oh my God, I have to go. And I'm really grateful to have a very supportive mother who she took me to the show. It was just me and her. And we didn't really know what to expect or anything, but I remember like walking into the Pin, or I guess walking up because there's like two flights of stairs to get there. Um, Walking up there and just seeing queer people, drag queens, drag kings, just like seeing all this queerness in one place. And I am like, oh my God, how do I get involved with this? And I talked to a queen after the show, and she was like, we do amateur shows. And I'm like, wait, there's a space for me to actually start doing drag now, for me to perform. And that was kind of what got the ball rolling for me, was finding out about those amateur shows. And they were also all ages as well. Like almost, I would say 99% of the drag shows at the Pin were all ages. And so that was like, oh my God, there's a space now. And that's kind of how I got started, was through the amateur shows at the Pin. And the rest is history.
Yeah, and you've been doing drag now for like 4 years, and you like just recently, was it 4 or 5? I wasn't sure. Like,
It's like
I think it's
5. I'm creeping up on 6 in October.
yeah, and you just recently turned 22, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, that must be crazy. But like you really established yourself within like the all ages portion of drag like for such a long time. How does it feel now to like be around that age where you can like, I don't know, maybe do bigger shows now that you're like an adult, essentially, like yeah, over 21.
Yeah, I feel like for so long, like so most of my drag career, I was under 21. And again, I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that the Pin and a couple places in Spokane gave me, that gave me my start. And I feel like when you are like an under 21 drag performer, that's like the big moment of like, oh my God, I need to get to the bars, and need to get to the bars. And I was kind of just like, from like ages 16 to 20, I was basically just preparing to go to the bars and perform. And when I started performing at the bars, it kind of just felt, in a way, it was definitely new, but it just felt natural, because I'm like, I've been doing this for 4 years at this point. Like, this is basically, there's not really a whole lot different, except there's more alcohol involved
Yeah.
and other substances. But yeah, I think doing drag for so long before I turned 21, it just like really prepared me to do 21 plus shows. And I think it was just a really easy transition for me.
That's good. That especially like, you've been doing it for so long. Like you kind of know what to expect at that point. I mean, I can't imagine it being too different than like an all ages show. Like, like you said, it's like
Yeah.
more alcohol and more crazy people probably because it's the bars. But
Right.
this is probably like definitely like the part of the show where I like show you like a picture of like who you were like when you first started drag. But like I first off don't like roasting children. So I don't really have that picture. But like what I was very impressed by actually was yeah, the first time you were in drag, you had the oatmeal eyebrows, like you were feeling your fantasy at that moment. But like I saw a picture a year later and you looked stunning even then. Like I feel like your drag like do you feel like your drag has really elevated like very quickly like as the more the years pass by?
Yeah, it honestly, like, that was always my mindset, especially when I started drag. That was always my mindset of like, what can I do differently? What can I try? How can I improve? Especially because I had such an established community at the Pin, with so many other queer people and drag artists. It was always like I had this amazing community that was there to support me and give me critiques and be like, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should not do this anymore. Um, I was always, especially early on in my drag career, it was always like I wanted to try new things. I always wanted to get better. I always just wanted to level up. And like I think in the moment you don't really feel like you don't really feel like anything's changed because you're in that moment. But like looking back, like the growth and the trajectory, like I see it. I see it very vividly, and it's especially really powerful to see that. Like I remember, I think like a year or two into my career, I thought I knew everything. I thought, oh, like, oh my God, wow, I perfected my face. But then I look now and I'm like, no, girl, you have so much more work to do. And even now I still think that I still have more work to do. But now I'm really proud of all of the hard work that I put into my drag and to improving. And I guess I could really say that like all the hard work, it paid off. It paid off in the end.
Oh yeah, and especially like I think around the time you were doing drag too, you were also discovering like your identity as well, like as a trans person, and like I think were you gay first when you started drag? Like were you already like out to your family at that time?
Yeah, so when I started drag, I was already out. As I was first, like at first I just came out as like a gay cis male, and that's who I was back then. But as the more I started doing drag and getting more connected to the community, I learned about all these the possibilities of queerness and transness. Because before drag, I thought like in order to be a trans person, in order to be a trans girl, you have to like you have to be on hormones right away. You have to have X amount of surgeries. You have to like basically want to be cisgender. And very quickly through drag, I learned that like to be trans, like there's not any prerequisites. Like you can just be yourself. And that was really important for me, as like a really young queer person and also a really young drag artist, is when I started getting connected to that community. I just learned all these possibilities, and it was really powerful, really powerful.
Yeah, yeah. There's really like just something about drag, whether you're like a drag queen, king, or thing, where it's just like it kind of just gives you the permission to be yourself, like maybe not
Yeah.
even be yourself, but like be the person that you want to be on the outside. I recall seeing Rocky Horror for the first time. That wasn't the first time I've seen a drag queen. Like the first time I saw a drag queen was Divine, John Waters
Yeah.
specifically. But uh, when I saw Rocky Horror, and the reason why I was so infatuated with that movie, it was like Frankenfurter embodied everything that I didn't feel like I was myself at that time.
Yeah.
So when I played Frankenfurter, like for a shadow casting, like I think that was the first time I ever did drag, like specifically, like
Oh,
now that I think about it. But um,
yeah.
like yeah, I was just like the heels, the makeup, like everything, like it embodied what I want on like uh, I was embodying what I wanted on the inside, outside. And I feel like drag does that for a lot of people. And it really like just
Exactly.
like it turns that that trans non-binary like queerness like side of the brain like up to 11. I feel like at least in my case, and it sounded like it was like that in your case as well. um yeah, especially like someone so young as well, like getting to that point must have been
Yeah.
really like freeing.
Yeah, it also wasn't like an instant journey for me. Like it took a lot of time and it took a lot of self-discovery for me because very early on in my drag career that in terms of like my gender identity, like that's kind of again, kind of how I talked about like my growth with my drag. At the time, I thought that like, oh, I know everything. Like this is the most I'm ever gonna grow. But you know, then you go now and it's like you realize that like no, you have so much more growth to do. And I think about that with my gender identity specifically. Because at the beginning of my drag career, I was like very comfortable. I was like, oh, I'm just a feminine gay man, and like that's who I am. And I think a lot of like specifically a lot of like my cisgender heterosexual people in my life, they were like just comfortable with that. And so when I started realizing like, oh, maybe that's not who I am 100%, um, it took a while for me to get to the place where now I'm a non-binary trans woman and I'm really proud of where I am at now. And I'm also open to the possibilities of maybe I might change in the future, maybe I won't. And I learned that that's okay.
Oh, that's so cool that you like figured that out. It took me so
Yeah.
long to like just like be open with that idea. Um, I think a lot of it has to do with like Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. But like hearing someone like
Yeah.
so young like talk about that, like it's really great. Like opens my heart a lot, especially as someone who grew up in such an oppressive society specifically. The one thing like I want to move on to because we talked about Spokane, talked about the pin. Um, when did you start going to the Bellingham, like western side of Washington? Because I know you went to WWU, Western Washington
Yeah.
University. Yeah. So, um, how did you get established in Bellingham? Because like a couple of things in my research of Sage, I was like, oh, um, Western Washington has like a drag club, like I thought, which I
Yeah.
thought was really interesting. Like, tell me a little bit about your experience at Western Washington University and how you broke into the scene there.
Yeah. So I um it was I started at Western. Technically, I started at Western like in 2020, but that was COVID, and all the classes were online, and so basically my entire freshman year at college was all online. And I could have taken a gap year, but I think for me at my life in that moment, I really needed to just push forward with my life, even if it was online classes. Like I still just needed something to do. And so my entire freshman year was online. And then like during spring quarter of my freshman year, that's when Western was like, okay, we're gonna go back in person in the fall. And once I got that go ahead from Western, that's when I moved to Bellingham. And I moved in with some people that I had already previously known. And I was really focused on school at first, because um, I knew there was a drag scene in Bellingham. That's honestly that's a whole other side thing, about how I learned about the Bellingham scene, which we maybe talk about this, but I'll finish this track
Uh,
first.
oh, oh yeah,
Um,
we'll definitely talk about
I
that.
will definitely talk about that. That was basically like a that's like a what is it, like a prologue to prior to me moving to Bellingham. But um I was really just focused on school at first. I was like, I'm probably not going to do that much drag, like, because I just want to be really focused on school. Because even throughout like all my life, like education is always like a number one thing for me. And so even like I put drag on the back burner sometimes just so I can focus on school because it's just so important to me. And um the at Western, we have a annual drag show that now LGBTQ plus Western organizes it, but back then it was a different organization. But that was I auditioned for the annual drag show, which happens at our giant theater on campus. It's a really big event. It's like I'd probably say it's like the biggest drag show in Bellingham, like literally like 300 plus people in one theater watching drag. It's beautiful. I auditioned and I got in. And that's when I really started getting connected to other people in the scene. And I had some opportunities here and there. And yeah, so that's kind of how I started. But I can talk about how I learned about the Bellingham drag scene now if you
Yeah.
want.
Well, like I actually like I want to talk a little bit about this show because I
Yeah.
don't know what the specific title of like what you're talking about, but I do know that they've been doing this for so long. They've been doing it for as long as I've been born. I've been 31 years. So or so
Period.
like maybe a little bit older, but like I'm not really sure. But I just like that's really surprising to me that there's something like that it has existed for so long. Like is this like could you tell me like what's the name of the event? Because like I can't first of all I can't remember what it was called, but like are is it only students who get to perform in this show?
No, so the so it's basically like whatever year it is. So our most recent one was the 32nd annual drag show. It's a really long title. That's basically like the shortened version of the name, but it's technically Western Washington University's like 32nd annual drag show, for example. Um and it's it's not just students actually. There's a focus on student performers, but we book a lot of, I say we because I organized it for 2 years, which was so amazing. But we also book local performers, sometimes people from Portland or people from Seattle, but it's mostly very student and like local performer based. And yeah, that's kind of that's how I got started in Bellingham.
Was it a positive experience for you? Like how did it go?
I did it for 3 years. So my sophomore year at college, that was my first time doing it, and I did it every single year since then. So I did it 3 years in a row. I organized it for the 31st and the 32nd show, and it's just a all around a really positive experience for me because it's my way of showing like my well, I can't say it's my community anymore because I graduated, but at the
I think
time
you can
like it
I
was a
think you can
really
claim it. Oh, I was gonna
I
say
guess,
I think
yeah,
you
I
can
guess
claim it.
I
Yeah.
can claim it.
Hmm.
But it's just a really positive experience to show like the like my school friends, my peers at school, like this is my drag, this is my community, this is my art. Because that's kind of another theme with my life is like there's always been kind of like I like to think of I live a very Hannah Montana life where I have a separation of like people of like my school life or like my work life where I like interact with those people, but then there's a split with the like okay, at night I go to the club, I do my gig, I have my drag community, my queer community there. And there's some intersection there sometimes, but yeah, it the specifically with the annual show, it was just really cool opportunity to show my school peers like this is what I do and this is what I do at night, basically. Um, it's also just so magical to see that many people supporting local drag, like amazing.
Yeah, support local drag. Like Like I always laugh at that, but like no, like local drag is so cool, especially like events like this that have like such large histories and stuff like that. I also related to what you were saying about like that Hannah Montana lifestyle because like that's very me. Like I don't go by Sid like at work or anything. Like I go by my legal name, and they don't know anything about what I do. Like whenever anyone asks like, "What are you doing this weekend?" I'm just like, "Nothing." And like I'm obviously like off doing something because like they don't need to know, you know.
Right?
I'm also like not friends with the people I work with. I we work in harmony and in peace, but they're not my friends.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean with work specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get into like how you discovered like the drag scene in Bellingham, you were going to Western Washington University. You got a major in journalism, PR, and a minor in women's studies and sexuality. It was a very long title, also. So
Yeah,
the
for a long
memory of it.
time.
It's the woke. It's the woke my minor.
Honestly, that's how it felt.
Tell me about it. Like why journalism of everything that you could have chose like in the world in college, like what gravitated you to journalism specifically and women's studies on the side.
Yeah. So when it comes to journalism, it's kind of like a couple different factors. Uh, in high school, I was a really big yearbook kid. I was actually like editor in chief of my school's yearbook for like 2 years. I was really involved with yearbook in high school, but I didn't really fully know if I could continue doing something like that in like the future. So I kind of like put that on the back burner. But in the back of my mind, I was always thinking about my yearbook experience of like I was so much fun. I love telling people stories. And specifically with like yearbook, that's kind of where I really started to learn that like I love I love connecting with people. I love learning people's stories. I specifically love representing people with marginalized identities. And that's kind of where like that started. But when I graduated, I was like, okay, I gotta put that on the back burner. Because believe it or not, when I started at Western my freshman year, I actually was a business major, which sounds
Wow.
so out of character for me, and it was. Because I didn't know specifically with like journalism. I always thought of journalism like, okay, it's always hard news. You're always reporting. You have to be super objective, which that's a whole other journalism rant. Me and the journalistic like code of like objectivity, I don't agree with it. Specifically because that oftentimes silences marginalized communities and then just uplifts the status quo, which that's a whole other rant for later. But that's what I thought for the longest time. It was like if I want to do journalism, I have to be objective and I have to be a hard news reporter. But then I started realizing that like business wasn't really working out. And so I then went back to the list of majors and I looked at journalism again and I found the public relations track. And I started reading the description of it and it was like basically like doing journalism minus the objectivity part. And I was like, that works for me. And it felt really right because also I had my best friend Ashley, shout out to Ashley. Um, she was looking over the majors for me as well, and she was like, "What about journalism? Like, what's wrong with that?" And she found the public relations track as well for me, and was like, she was like, "I think you could really excel in this," and I'm like, "You know what? Maybe you're right." And so then I talked to my advisors and everything, got on the track, and very soon I learned that like, okay, this is where I belong at Western, and specifically with like public relations, like I really like that. I really love it. Um, in terms of women, gender, and sexuality studies, I had originally before going to Western, I honestly really wanted to go into women, gender, and sexuality studies um, as like a major. But then, I had family members give me the like reality check of like, you're not going to make a lot of money with that.
Right.
Like that classic thing. Um, and I was like, okay, I guess I can't do that, but I can do it as a minor. Because again, going back to your book, I was really interested in telling marginalized people's stories and giving them the representation that they deserve. And that was always a really big interest of mine, because I thought that that was something I was really good at. Was That's how I can kind of like create change in the world, is like telling people stories and uplifting voices that are often unheard. And that was always kind of the back burner for me. And so then that's when I decided to do that as my minor, just so I can always be interested in that subject area, but while also like doing a major that like can make money. So that's kind of like how I got into my major and minor. And honestly, now that I'm graduated and I went through everything, like that's honestly like it's the correct decision. I think I made the correct decision.
Well, that's good to hear. I think those two degrees really like kind of go hand in hand, kind of like you said, of
Yeah.
like telling marginalized stories, especially through journalism. It was really interesting, like your thought of like journalism being like this, hard boil, like, very serious type of thing. I like to think what we're doing here on this show is a little bit of journalism as well. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
interviewing people. Like I like telling people that I'm the gay Barbara Walters. Like Maddie Morphosis might be like the Barbara Walters of drag. Like I'm the gay Barbara Walters, like just investigating, going in there. Especially recently, I've been doing a lot more research and stuff like that. And it's kind of fulfilling that journalism side, because like I was going to be a journalist too, before I switched paths to something that was going to make a lot more money for me, and it was a theater major. It's not. But like it's just really interesting how that track, because like I don't do theater anymore, but like I do
Yeah.
technically journalism essentially, or
Yeah.
like with interviews and stuff like that. um but like PR is really great too, because that
Oh
nowadays I
yeah.
feel like a lot of people definitely need that public relation specific person to like help them with their image a little bit, especially with the way like the internet, specifically the internet works. So do you have anything lined up in as far as like pursuing journalism now that you've graduated, or is that just kind of on the back burner right now, since yeah, you just recently graduated this year? So like
Yeah.
where's your mind, mama? Like like degree, like
Well, I just graduated basically like almost like a little over a month ago, actually. So I'm kind of right now I'm kind of just figuring things out. I'm on LinkedIn and Indeed, looking for jobs still, but I guess right now in terms of like pursuing journalism, I'd like to think that specifically with PR, back in my school days, I guess, we learned a lot about social media and media relations and all different kinds of relations with different groups. And I like to think that with how I'm using my PR degree right now is like through drag, because I manage my drag account like the Navy. Like I am like bio, linktree, posting on your stories, having hashtags, like interacting with accounts. Like it's a it's really great to be able to use like my PR education towards like my drag. It's very beneficial, specifically with like wanting to promote yourself and having branding in mind. Um, yeah, I like to think that I'm using my degree for drag.
oh, well, that's really interesting that you say that, because like we'll get to like Dragon Bellingham in just a second, but like is that how you like found me specifically? Not just like through like our mutuals and stuff like that, but like I've seen you like engage with like the other interviews I've done with like Faye and Sigourney Weaver and Erica Clash and stuff like that. But um like you reaching out, like was that like your way of like putting yourself out there specifically?
Maybe.
uh,
Honestly, I that's a big thing with PR is like is reaching out to news organizations. That was basically like PR 101, was like how do you create a press release? How do you get a reporter to like interview you about your event or your organization or whatever you're trying to promote. That was honestly when I saw, because I learned about you actually through Faye, because her most recent episode, she posted it on her story, and I was like, oh my God, one of my besties is on a podcast. Like, this is so cool. I listened to the episode and I was like, wait, this is like kind of a cool thing. Like, I kind of want to be on it too. Like, I think, yeah, yeah, that's where my mind was when I was like reaching out, like, hey, if you ever want me on the podcast, I'm available
Nice.
and willing to
Was it
talk.
was it cool when you listened to that episode before you realized that this was her third time on the show, or after, like that she's done this like
Oh,
three
I did my
times?
research. I was like scrolling through all the episodes, like, wait, Faye's been on 3 times.
Yeah.
I was like, that is so cool.
Yeah, this show, like, despite like its reboot recently, like we've been doing it for, I want to say 4, but yeah, that would be a lie. We took a year hiatus. So it's technically been 3. But no, Faye's great. I mean, like the first time having her on was like very important. We kind of lost touch like for a little bit, and that was kind of us, getting back into it. Second time, like I was just rebooting, and like the premise behind the rewind at the time was to rewind and go back to like those older episodes and like catch up with people. And the premise of the Wayward World podcast, or back then when it was called Wayward Artists in the Wayward World, was to talk about people and things that people were thankful for, and it didn't really have a lot of people thought it was a theater podcast because I had a lot of theater people on the show, but like,
Oh
that's
yeah.
all I knew. Yeah, that's all I knew. Yeah. I was like, we gotta start like inviting different people on this show, because like this is not a theater podcast.
Right.
And yeah, it was just like really cool to like not only tell these people like their story, but at the time, talking about people that, you know, they would not normally talk about, in like a different
Yeah.
setting. We've had, like, not to get into me or anything specifically, but like we've had Mike Drucker, who writes for I forget the show, but mm, it's so long ago. I'll talk about a one that I have better memory on. Oh yeah, Mike Drucker. He was like he wrote for Jimmy Fallon. Like,
Oh,
and
wow.
I yeah, yeah. Um, the, I think it's the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. That, or probably that was a TV show,
Mm,
but like he for sure wrote for Jimmy Fallon for a while. So
right.
like getting him to talk about you know how he's doing in COVID, basically, and like who's checking up on him. And then we had Megaran, who's a very popular chiptune video game music artist who was on Billboard Top 100, which is like kind of crazy. Khalif Adams,
Wow.
who's on Spawn on Me's video game podcast, that was really cool. So you had all these really interesting people on the show, like just not only sharing their stories, but sharing the stories about the people and things that they love was like really nice. And then like the rewind was an opportunity to like talk about them a little bit more, like get these people
Yeah.
back on the show and have them talk about what's important to them. And like the best episodes were like the kids that I like mentored and stuff like that, with permission from their
Mhm.
family, of course. Like I would never just like
Of
invite
course.
kids on the show, but um like learning about them a little bit and learning about what's important to them, like that shit was so cool. I think it got stale when I didn't like it. Basically,
So
I like
fair.
I yeah, I needed like just a refresh, and like I was just really into drag again. Like I think I fell off of RuPaul like after Evie Oddly season. So
Oh
and
yeah.
like right in the middle of Monet and Trinity's season. Like I that's where I really like fell off. Um but like recently just getting the drag, getting into the scene, and like being a little bit more open with my queerness, I was like, I want to talk to drag queens. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Specifically, um, the people that I've gotten to talk to so far have been really amazing. I think the Sigourney Beaver.
Yeah.
Have you listened to this? Like, not, again, I promise we'll get to you, but like, have you listened to the Sigourney Beaver episode? Because like that was really good, wasn't it? Like no biases here, but like, how did you feel about that?
I listened to Move's episode and Sigourney Beaver's episode. Yeah, I was actually listening to those while I was getting ready a couple hours ago. I loved I loved the Sigourney episode, honestly. I've just listened to it, so I'm still like processing it. But I I love Sigourney. She was my favorite on season 4 of Dragula because I'm also a big Dragula fan. Um, love Sigourney. I love seeing her personality shine through. That is outside of a TV show, a script, not a scripted TV show, but like a very edited TV show. Just to be able to hear her talk for like an hour and a half about her life and everything, that's like really fascinating. And that's what I love about this podcast, honestly. Just like getting a deep dive on like local like queer artists, like how they got to where they are today, like learning about their art, like, and then specifically with like Mauve's episode, it was like this is the rationale of like why I made the decisions that I did. I thought that was so cool. Like, whoa, like that's why it was like their straitjacket piece that they talked about why they made decisions they did. Like that was just really interesting to like learn about because you learn more about the person and like where they come from and who they are. Like that's really fascinating.
Oh yeah, and like the premise of like specifically like trying to really highlight local drag or the local queer nightlife scene, I like to say, is you see these people on like posters and stuff like that, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
this person's gonna perform, and this person's gonna perform, and this person's gonna perform, and you don't know who they are. Like,
exactly.
you have them on these posters, and you're supposed to like feel like you should know who they are, but you only really know the ones that have the Dragula or the RuPaul's Drag Race like logo next to them, those are the only ones that you could possibly know. But like, um, I just think the idea of like, someone going on to Sage Valentine show, and they see her poster, and it's like, oh, I wonder who this Sage Valentine is, and they come here, and
Right.
they watch and listen to hear about Sage,
Yeah.
which we will hear right now, because I want to talk about I want to talk about how you got into the Bellingham drag scene, because y'all over there are doing some really cool stuff. Like, I gotta say, like
We are.
it feels, I know how like Bellingham to me feels so small, but like the more I hear about the drag over there and like what's going on, it feels so big. I don't know how to explain it, but like, how did you get into it?
So, um, I guess I was teasing it when I was talking about the annual drag show at Western, but I had actually met quite a few drag performers even before I moved to Bellingham because basically I guess I think basically 2 years before I even moved to Bellingham, I was a senior in high school and you know, going on the classic, like applying for college, visiting colleges, figuring out what do you want to do with your life after like graduating from high school. And my mom and I um, took a little weekend trip to Bellingham to visit Western because at the time, basically, I was either thinking about going to Western or going to Washington State University, WSU. And I was like, okay, we have a free weekend. Let's go to Bellingham. Let's see what Western's about. And I had known quite a few people from my high school who actually went to Western. And I visited Bellingham for the weekend, visited Western, loved the campus. And my mom and I were like in our hotel room just thinking like, like, I wonder if there's any like drag shows that happen in Bellingham, or if there's any all ages drag shows that happen in Bellingham because I think I was like 17 at the time. And I we were just on Facebook and my mom found Rumors Cabaret, which now I perform there. But at the time, you know, it's a 21 plus bar and it still is. And so my mom just messaged Rumors and was like on Facebook and was like, "Hey, like I'm here with my queer child. Um, is there any like all ages drag shows that happen around town? Just doesn't hurt to ask." And the owners got back to her and was like, "Hey, actually tonight there's this one drag show happening at Makeshift." And a Makeshift in Bellingham is it's a music venue and an art venue. It's a really cool place. Check it out. But we were like, okay, there's an all ages show happening tonight. Let's go. And we went, and it was in the basement of the venue, and it was very packed. But and we came a little late too, but we were still able to see a lot of the drag. And after the show, I went up to Mix, who is a local drag entertainer in Bellingham. Iconic, love her. I went up to her, took a photo with her, and was like, "I am also a drag performer. This is my Instagram." And she was like so impressed. She was like, "Ricky, come on, Ricky, Helen, come on, look at this." And like, that's how I met Ricky and Helen Tragedy. And then this drag king named Jack Goff, who doesn't perform in Bellingham anymore. He's a Seattle performer now, but at the time he was in Bellingham. And I met all these drag entertainers, and Mix was like, "The moment you move to Bellingham, message me and I want to book you." And I was like, "Okay, slay." And then the pandemic happened.
Oh,
And literally like 2 weeks later, the pandemic happened. And then a lot of things were stalled, but we still followed each other on Instagram. And it's funny that then, like 2 years later, I met Mix again and was like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I met you like back in 2020." And I showed her the photo, and she was like, "Whoa, that was a long time ago." And that's kind of how I first learned that there was drag in Bellingham. And when I moved to Bellingham, I, did the 30th annual drag show and started getting more and more connected to the community. I had some opportunities here and there, even did Bellingham Pride. Um, but then it was always the annual show, the Western's annual show, that always kept me connected to the community, even though I wasn't 21. Because even though in Bellingham we have a very big, I would say we have a pretty big drag community for the size town that we're in. We have a pretty big drag community. There's not a lot of all ages shows. Like most of the shows still happen at Rumors, which is a bar. But we get some all ages 18 plus shows here and there. We're hoping to do more soon. Hoping that'll change. But yeah, with the annual show, I was always connected to the community, and also through social media, I was always connected to these people. And then when I turned 21, I started at Rumors. It was like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. And yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's really impressive. I'm familiar with Jack King Off. Like when like well, I know he's Jack Goff, but isn't he Jack King Goff? Like that's like the pun, like his
I
full
think.
name.
And maybe the
Yeah.
name got updated.
Oh,
I haven't seen it in
okay.
a while.
Oh, that's fair. That's really interesting. That they were like, "Oh, we're gonna book you right away," because like it's like I said, like even looking at some of like your old photos, in even in 1 year, it really was such a glow up. Like I'm really interested. We'll probably talk more about like maybe that glow up and like where that came from and how you
Yeah.
like develop your skills. But the one question that's like on my mind, why Western Washington? Like, why Bellingham specifically? Was it because of the program that you were applying to? Were you looking at other colleges at the time, or what? Like, what clicked about Bellingham? Like, was it like that plus the drag scene was really impressive? Like, what? Like, why Bellingham is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That's definitely a fair question to ask. Uh, Honestly, a partial reason was the drag community. Once I found out there was a drag community there and like a pretty vibrant queer community there, I was like, okay, I feel a little bit more comfortable with this place. But it was also, I remember when I did the campus tour and I met up with with one of my friends who had graduated and was attending Western. She was a year above me. So while I was a senior, she was a freshman at Western, and I met up with her, and I had a really good conversation with her, asking her a lot of questions about Western. And I kind of already knew people from high school that went to Western who really liked it. And when I was on campus, Bellingham is a very beautiful place. It is full of nature, and specifically Western's campus, full of art, full of nature. It was just the perfect balance of everything that I need. Because I don't like too much of one thing. Like I remember when I because I also visited University of Washington, which is right in the heart of Seattle, and I didn't like that because I'm like that's way too city. But then when I went to Western, it was a perfect balance of like, okay, it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Like there's a lot of nature, but also at the same time, there's a vibrant downtown drag scene. So it was just Bellingham was just a perfect balance of everything that I need. And it was beautiful, amazing community. I wasn't necessarily attached to a specific like program because before I started attending Western, I didn't completely know what I wanted to major in. I wanted to do some exploration. And yeah, and especially when I started getting more connected to the Bellingham community through like friends, I was just like, wow, it's amazing. Also, I'm originally from Spokane, as we've established, and um though I was able to find good like drag and queer community in Spokane, like even my like teachers in high school were like, get out of Eastern Washington. Like you need to experience Western Washington for a little bit. And I kind of always wanted that. I kind of wanted to always like get out of Eastern Washington and experience the like vibrant blue dots of Western Washington. And that was really important for me, is to like be in a community where I could feel 100% myself and I can feel 100% like me. And that's what I needed, was to just move far away from home and kind of just go on my own development journey. And Bellingham gave me that opportunity.
Oh yeah, and it sounds like Bellingham is kind of like best of both worlds in that sense. Like as you mentioned, it's you kind of get that vibrant queer community that maybe you would find in Seattle, in that area. Like I mean, for sure you would find in Seattle, but I feel like Seattle, it would probably be a lot harder to break into that scene over there because of how popular,
Yeah.
especially like in the last, I want to say 2 years, 3 years, like how popular it's been with like drag race, queer bars specifically is like the hot spot, I feel like, of like just
Yeah.
international drag. So very hard to get into. And then like you have Eastern Washington, which I don't need to tell you how shit I don't need to tell you how shit the queer community here is. You know, they're trying. They're trying. I don't want to like shit on them, but like,
Trying.
yeah.
I don't want to shit
It's
on
not good.
them, but his issues.
Yeah. But it sounds like Western specifically like has those opportunities that you were looking for. Maybe not necessarily like the school. Like at the end, you did like the school, but like, I think it sounded to me like you were looking more for community and like how you can grow. Does that sound right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's very true, I would say. Um and honestly, I'd like to know, I think a lot of Bellingham entertainers would agree. I feel like the Bellingham drag scene, we're kind of underrated, low key. Um we're sandwiched between two very major cities, which are Vancouver, BC, and Seattle. We're kind of like a nice little middle point between the two cities. Um, we have we do some really cool stuff. Like we produce different shows. Like we have an all transcasted show, which I was just a part of the latest edition of it, called Euphoria, produced by Dizzy Foria. Love Dizzy. We have weekly shows at Rumors Cabaret. We literally have we have guaranteed shows every single Friday and Sunday. Wednesdays, it depends on what's going on Wednesdays, but we also have shows on Wednesdays. Like we have a scene here, and we have some like really awesome people here. So I think the world needs to understand that, you know, we have wonderful drag here too.
Mhm. Yeah, I think one of y'all need to be on Drag Race first or Dragula, and then like it will pop. I
Maybe,
feel maybe I don't know.
maybe
But
a lot of money.
um, it is. It's crazy how much people spend to go on those shows. Like it's kind of
Yeah,
ridiculous, but you know, it
honestly.
it especially for something that like nowadays doesn't really guarantee that your career is going to like go up. I mean, if you're first out, you're essentially like dunzo. I mean, the one I would
Yeah,
argue that is like popular specifically after like pork chop still was Irene. Irene is like the
yeah,
queen. She's like the queen of Seattle. I mean, like if
yeah,
if I want to argue like who the queen of Seattle is, it's probably Bosco specifically. But I think Irene, like everyone knows who Irene, the alien Dubois is. So, um, but I don't know. Yeah, it's really hard nowadays, like with the popularity of drag right now, of like just being on one of those shows. But I digress.
yeah,
I want to talk about your aesthetic because you described yourself as
yeah,
a trans drag goddess. I don't know how like I don't know
yeah.
why I
Got
get
it.
like such fat tongue like saying that. It's like it's such a tongue twister. Describe your aesthetic. Like right now, yeah, you're embodying like ethereal like goddess right now, but like tell me like what inspires you to get into drag? Like what do you like I guess like the better question is like what is like what inspires you to create your drag persona? Like like what kind of fashion, what kind of makeup, trends on TV and stuff like that. Like what inspires you to get into drag? Not like on the metaphorical sense, but like literally like as far as like inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, I am embracing a very gold aesthetic. I have a lot of gold, a lot of warm tones because I've recently very much so learned that like I look really great in gold. I polish up real nice with some gold. I'm literally wearing like almost like head to waist gold. We won't talk about the other part. Yeah, because anyways, but yeah, I'm very gold right now. I just I it just I really I found out that it just really complements me super well. Uh and yeah, so I'm kind of going in a more gold direction, and that's specifically because of the Sun photo shoot that I recently did with the Rage magazine. It's you mentioned it a little earlier before, but this headpiece was made for me for that photo shoot, which I didn't request that at all. They were just like, "Here, we made this headband for you." I was like, "Oh, actually, that's kind of a slay," and I've been embracing it ever since. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the direction that I'm going in right now. I'm open to some new possibilities, especially because I don't want to just rely 100% on gold. I really love metallics in general. Like not only do I have a lot of gold, I have a lot of like really shiny silver stuff that looks amazing on stage because like this specifically, like this corset, oh my God, this top, it looks with a spotlight, it looks amazing. Um, I just love the way metallics it's very eye-catching on stage. It's I just feel really good. It helps me get into like that goddess headspace of like I am glittering, I am shimmering. I love it. I love it right now. Um, I guess in terms, do you want me to talk about my inspirations?
Sure.
Yeah. I'd probably say I pull most of my like specifically when it comes to aesthetic, I take a lot of my inspirations from like pop divas. Specifically right now it's like Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, as I'm a big Swiftie, as you can see. Uh
Nice.
I have her hanging up right now.
Yep.
Um Yeah, specifically Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift right now. Like I'm just really inspired by not only their aesthetic, but also like the power that they have of like just having so much self-confidence and telling stories. It's really beautiful. And that's honestly where I pull a lot of most of my inspirations are through the pop divas.
Lovely. I mean, that's great. I mean, like that's a lot of drag queens pull from like pop divas and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
the way you kind of describe their empowerment and like that goddess energy that you're looking for, I will also say that I love gold as well, and the sparkliness of gold. I've recently really gotten into jewelry, specifically. I'm not wearing my earring right now because you can't really see it with the headphones, but I love wearing earrings. I need some gold earrings. Um, but
Yeah.
then we'll probably pull up a picture of it, but I'm gonna buy this like necklace, this 14 karat plated gold necklace that
You should.
has the face of Pikachu on it, and it's a Pokemon license necklace, and it's ridiculous, but I'm like, this sparkles and it's like gold, like this is kind of neat. Um, I'll have to show it to you on Instagram. We'll have it popped up here on the podcast, but it's just there's something about that glitteriness of like it catches your eye, and that's really what you want.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like that's what you want people to do when they see you perform. You want all focus, all attention on you, and that's what like kind of like glitter does. It's like it's reflective. It's
Exactly.
like it's kind of like how like when light reflects off the mirror and you see that spot, and like you kind of
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah. um it catches your eye and it's like, where's that coming from? like that's
Right.
such a stupid example, but like what I'm trying to say is like I think you're embodying that specifically right now, but like as we're showing like throughout the show, like the slideshow of like your outfits and stuff like that, like you've really like kind of embodied that. um there was one look specifically though that I really liked was the Monster High specific inspiration that you had, where you were like, I don't know what the character's called, but it was inspired by Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
um
Her name is
Green
Frankie Stein.
Frankenstein. Okay, there we go. um it really looks good. I really like that one. But yeah, like that's so cool. The other question I had about your aesthetic is, well, I guess is it aesthetic, but like your performance style? Like what kind of like music do you like to perform to?
Uh, Again, a lot of
The pop
pop.
divas.
I'm very much so known for like my pop. I know it's a classic like drag queen thing to always like perform top 40. Um, but I'm a lot more intentional with a lot of the music that I perform. And I think I'd say most drag artists are the same way. All like you kind of have to be intentional with your song choices. But for me, like I like to perform a lot of songs that like um, of course, depending on what kind of story or what kind of emotion I want to invoke that day. But like, I really like music that like makes me feel something. That whether that emotion is sad, happy, or it's like really cathartic. Um, I love pop music that just makes me oftentimes like really makes me feel really empowered, kind of going back to that. I'm starting to see a theme here with
Yeah.
everything, but a lot of like music that makes me really feel empowered and strong. um because I like to embody that on stage. um but besides like empowerment, I also really like I kind of like to tell stories with my songs. For example, I have this number where I perform Forever and Always by Taylor Swift mixed with Bejeweled. And with that, I tell the story of it's like a Cinderella story without the man. I like to call it, um, where I like to show the audience that like you may feel really down and dismissed by someone, but at the end of the day, you can make the whole place shimmer. kind of going back to that like self-empowerment um theme. Like, yeah, specifically with that, that's just one example of that. Uh, just showing the audience that you have the power within yourself to make the whole place shimmer, to stand in your truth and be your best self. And I kind of, that's with my song choices. I kind of like to tell stories like that with the songs I choose.
So what I really liked about your statement here, Sage, was like the way you talked about your art
Yeah,
and the way that you do drag. It's really impressive because like I feel like a lot of people, specifically the drag artists that I talk to, and it's no shade to them, like that's their process. Like they go out there, they put on the look, and they dance and mash their mouth to like music. Like
yeah,
that's drag a lot, but like the way that how you described your intentions with it, it's very artistic, like like that's very like, I am an artist, I have something that I want to say, and I want to share that with people. And I think like that's the best type of drag specifically. I remember like just a couple months ago actually, I saw Kennedy Davenport perform in Seattle, and like there was just, you can tell just how, not only how seasoned she is because for like how long she's been doing drag, but
right.
the story that she was able to tell in her
Yeah.
like lip syncing, it moved me to tears. Like I don't really remember the song too well because I was maybe just a little bit inebriated, but it was just so powerful. And I think like that's like the best kind of drag, is like when you have something to say
Yeah,
specifically. But no, you're it's really impressive, like just how polished you are, especially like for someone, yeah, you've been doing it for close to 6 years now, but like, but I guess I'm coming at it like the age specifically. Like I think a lot
yeah.
of people, it takes them a lot of time to get to where you are. And I'm talking about me specifically. But I'm just really impressed with like how you got to where you are right now. And I think I might have figured out where that comes from. And it sounds like maybe your mom might have something to do with it, or at least coming from a very supportive, it sounds like, at least on your mom's side, she was very supportive of your queer identity. And like from the moment like you first discovered drag and trying to like go to shows, like she was there. And the shows in Bellingham, like your mom was there. Tell me about your family life. Like has your family always been supportive? Like do you feel like what I'm saying about coming from a supportive, sounds like a supportive household? I don't know about your dad or your other extended family, but yeah, at least your mom sounds like she's very supportive. So like does what I'm saying sound right? Like or just tell me a little bit about your family.
Oh my God, 1000%, 1000%. I have to say, I have a lot of privilege coming from a very good support system. I specifically want to shout out like my mom and my sister. Um, my mom, from like the moment I came out to her, first as gay and then other identities later, she was always just so important. She was just always so supportive. And she was all, and especially when we started going to shows, and then when I expressed interest in doing drag, she was like, okay, let's do this. Like she went to thrifts. She drove me to thrift stores before I had my license. She drove me to thrift stores. We went shopping together. She would help me put together costumes. Um, like I have a really awesome supportive mom, and I'm really really so grateful for her, because I would not be Sage would not be where she is right now without like my mom. And also my sister. um I guess I kind of like, she's like kind of like my tech assistant in a way. Like if I ever have any like mix or audio like questions, I'm like, okay, okay, Ashley, does this sound good? Like, is this gonna make sense? She's like, actually, no, you should do this. And I'm like, actually, you're right. um my sister has a lot of tech, uh like a lot of like tech experience, and so I always go to her for like a lot of technical stuff with drag. And she's also like very, very honest with me. And so is my mom. They're both like the people I go to where I just need when I need like a really honest like opinion. They are like always willing to tell me like their thoughts and if something's working or not, which is something that I've always really needed. Because that's how you get better is you need that honesty from people. So you really learn what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, how can you improve. Yeah, my mom drove me to all my shows back when I did Dragon Spokane. She drove me to all my shows. She was there at every single show, like tipping, helping me with like pick up my tips. Like, I would often my sister would be backstage with me sometimes if I needed like help changing. My sister was always there for me for that. Uh, I My mom and sister are just the best. They're like my best friends and my biggest support system. And I'm really grateful for them. And even if they don't get everything right 100% of the time, their heart is in the right place. And they're always willing to learn and to just be the best support system ever for me. So I'm always really grateful for them.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like they had not only a footprint in like your drag specifically, like with your sister helping out with your mix, or your mom basically being a tip kitten for you, and like driving you around, like buying your drag and stuff like that. But like just like household stuff. Like I feel like a lot of people, um, at least the people that I know, like didn't have that, and it took a long time for them to figure out where they go from there, like who they are as a person. Like I know specifically with me, like it really took. I came out when I was 16, back when I was in Saudi Arabia, but like even then it was like a secret, like it
Yeah.
was something like I came out to myself and like some internet friends, and that was it. But it really wasn't until I was like 28 where I was like, after I stopped talking to my dad and I came out to him, I was like, oh, things are unlocking right now. Like things that I never really knew about. Like I'm happier now. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy. So it's it's really important to like support your kid, um, especially your queer kid, doing whatever it is that they want to do, as long as they're not hurting anybody. Which,
Yeah.
yeah, and you could tell like specifically like because you started out at such a young age, like just how polished you are, and I think that's like I'll just keep saying it, like you're really beautiful, and like all of your Instagram
You.
pictures that I said, like even when
I'm
you were
glad.
first starting out too, it was just like it really elevated from there. What do you think? Uh, what do you think? Is there something about yourself still that like specifically with drag? I'm not talking like with the yourself or anything like that, but like, is there something with your drag that you are still looking to elevate or still like haven't perfected yet?
I'd probably say I really want to improve on my dancing. Um, I'm really good with acting and, showing emotions and lip syncing. But something I've always kind of, I've always kind of struggled with sometimes is dancing. I can dance like a little bit, like here and there. And I can really do it if I am pushed. But I would really love to improve on my dancing and not just have to rely on the same like 3 or 5 moves. I'd really want to like diversify my dancing. Also, I really want to start producing.
Oh,
I do have some like producing experience when with like producing the Western's annual drag show. And I got a lot of experience from that and learning like I definitely made a lot of mistakes with that, but I also did a lot of things right and I learned a lot from that experience. And so I really want to take that experience and start producing um more shows that aren't just based in the college, but just like out in the Bellingham community. Because I have a lot of fun ideas I really want to, with terms of drag shows that I really want to bring out to the world. And so, Yeah, I'd probably say like dancing, and then probably I would want to start producing.
Nice. If you ever need help with producing, let me know because I've produced specifically with theater stuff. Honestly, I've produced a lot of stuff, but like I guess like with this podcast and everything, like there's a lot of production that goes into this. One thing I recommend and like I tell people to do is get a grant. There's people out there, Sage, that will give you money to do art, and it's crazy. Like I think people don't realize like especially like as queer people, those straight
Yeah.
people eat us up. They
Yes,
there's
they
like
do.
yeah, there's gay like the gay like grants and money that you can get like they're out there. I mean, like shout out to Spokane Arts because like I got a grant for a project that I was going to do for theater that it didn't end up happening. I still won. Like I'm a grant winner of like
Oh,
$3,500 for like this playwright thing that I was going to do with kids. Um, that was really impressive. But now we're gonna try to get a grant for the show, which is gonna be really good. Um,
mm,
but but yeah, like if you're struggling with money and stuff like that, like grants are a big thing. And producing's so much fun because
yeah,
like your job really is to like just put people together and
right,
just like someone else makes the thing, like you have the ideas in your head of like what you want to do, but then you like get other people to like make that happen, and you don't really have to work that much. You just have to make sure everything's like there's money going through, everyone's happy, there's like no tea, no drama or anything like that. Like producing so much fun. I
it
think you would
is.
excel at it.
I definitely feel like I'm definitely I feel like I'm a kind of natural leader, I would say. And especially coming from like a PR background, I'm very good. I love email. I can send an email. I can send
Me
so many
too.
emails. And I feel like I'm really good with like streamlining communication as well. Like if I can make things as stupid, sweet, and simple as possible, like I will do it.
Yeah, I love and hate sending out emails. I mean, like that's how I got like Sigourney Weaver and Erica Clash, is like sending out emails. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes like I just hate doing it. But then when it happens, I was like, that was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the dread of like doing the thing is it's just always there. It's like, ugh, I don't really feel like doing it. Sometimes with the show too and interviewing people, I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to interview right now. I kind of want to rot in bed. But then when it happens, it's like, oh, this was a lot of fun. Why did I hate doing it? Why did I
Right?
want to cancel this interview? You know what I mean? But um like it's just really interesting how that works. But no, producing is great. I think you should produce something. I think that would like put you like up there as like,
Definitely.
you're popular now you're the person making the shows, and then people are going to come to you.
Definitely. Definitely. And especially because like I've like I have definitely I've been booked a lot over the years, and I've like been a part of a lot of different shows, and there's been so many moments internally where it's like, oh my God, I hate how this is happening, or like if I were producing, I would do XYZ. And now I kind of want to like actually do that of like, okay, if I now that I hopefully will be in that position to produce in the future, I can actually do the things that like back then I was like, if I was a producer, I would do this, and I could actually do it.
Yeah, especially now that like Dysphoria, they've produced stuff like Euphoria specifically. I think
Yeah.
Faye's produced something. If she's in theater, she can figure it out and help you out. Speaking of Dysphoria and Faye, we talked about a lot of your inspiration, like pop divas, trans icons, the color gold, like being something that you've been implementing recently, and we kind of touched on the people in your life specifically that have supported you. I want to talk about like drag artists
Yeah.
specifically that have like inspired you or pushed you, whether it was like like the friends that you have in Bellingham and Spokane. But um, tell me like some of your favorite like drag artists or people that inspire you to keep going.
Uh, I'd say first and foremost, first and foremost, like they get a lot of recognition already, but I definitely still want to give their flowers. like the trans drag queens who like Sasha Colby, Kylie Sonique Love, like Carrie Colby, like Jasmine Kennedy, like even people that aren't on the show, like Callie the Stally from Seattle,
I never
so
met
many more.
Callie.
I can list so many, but honestly, the trans drag queens that have been killing it and slaying it in the past and now, like they always inspire me. They all really just that's kind of where I get the goddess energy from, is from them, is standing in your truth, standing in your identity, and just being a goddess. And I get that from them, and that's a really big thing. But in terms of local, like more local people, I would say um I'll start in Spokane. Katie Roxwell from Spokane. Um, Katie was someone that was there when I first started performing, and she's still killing it to this day. Um, Katie is someone who I look up to as a professional because she is one of the kindest people that like I know. Like if you need help with something, like she's always willing to like help you. um like and the way that she carries herself in a dressing room, on stage, like I've really admired that, and I that's something that I've always emulated with how I carry myself. Like always I try to be humble and just try to be kind to everyone that you meet. Even if someone isn't super nice to you, you just kind of kill them with kindness, and that's what I learned from Katie, for sure. So Katie, if you're, I hope she's listening right now. But Katie, I love you so much, and I really wanna see you again, very soon. But in Bellingham, uh, really want to give a big shout out to my drag brother, Axe Andros. Axe Andros is a phenomenal drag king in Bellingham, who we've been friends for many years now. And I'm really inspired by his drive and his passion for drag. Because, I've been doing drag for a hot minute, and, it's really it takes a toll on you mentally and physically. And so when you do it for a long time, you kind of like the spark kind of like loses a little bit. But whenever I'm around Axe, I'm like reminded of like, okay, like I'm kind of reminded of why I started drag, the like the spark. And I'm really inspired by his drive to perform, to sell merch, to like just promote himself, to like get connect to other like queer people. I'm really inspired by him, and like, he's one of my biggest support systems in Bellingham. I always go to him if I ever need a rant or if I need help with anything. Like I go to him. Um, I also want to give a big shout out to Mix, Ricky, LBP, basically the entire cast of Queer Ass Fridays, at Rumors, like that entire cast, Feather Fatale. Um, I just love all of them so much. I love the community, the Bellingham community specifically. They're just so supportive and uplifting. Like we have no drama here. Yeah, it just coming to Bellingham specifically has reminded me of the community that I used to have in Spokane, because I've moved away from Spokane, and it's been a minute since I performed there, so I'm not as connected to this Spokane community anymore. But being here in Bellingham, like the Bellingham community is such a strong community. It keeps me going, because I have so many people that are always there, like at the back, either like in the performer area or in the back of the audience, is always just cheering me on, and it keeps me going. So I love the Bellingham community and all of the wonderful, passionate drag artists we have in our community.
Nice. You mentioned Callie the Sally, and I just want to say I love Callie so much.
Oh,
I
love
actually
her.
have a really fun I have a really fun story about Callie when I ran into
Oh
her
my God, still.
at Pride. So, um, I think everybody at Queer Bar knows who I am because like I kind of harass them on their socials. like a little bit, like not like in a bad way, but like just like
Right.
messaging on everything. So like, you know, Arietti like would wave hello, hey, like from far away. Jane Don't knows who I am. At first I thought she knew me as like the Spokane person because she's also from Spokane. I don't know if you know
Wait,
that, but
really? I didn't know
yep,
that.
she was there. She
Oh.
survived. And yeah, she always brings it up and he's like, we got to get you over here, you know. And then, you know, I
Right.
also know Norvina follows me, like she's really nice, and Callie too, like I message her a lot and stuff like that. And I saw her at Seattle Pride. She's been doing like this Renaissance Beyonce number
Oh,
that
yeah.
like every time I've seen her do it, it's just like I feel like this is what a Beyonce concert would have been like. Like this is like she is Beyonce to me. Like
Yes.
compared to like other times I've seen people do Beyonce, like they're good, but like she is Beyonce to me, but she's also Callie the Sally.
She
And
embodies.
exactly. And so like I ran into her like at night because I wanted to talk with her. I'm planning to get her on the show eventually, but I also know that she had like an asthma thing going on, and
Yeah.
she stopped doing her Pride performance like after that one show. So I went up to her and I was like, Callie, how's it going? And like I like at first she said hi, but then she was like, wait, did you just call me something else, like a different name or something like that? And I like froze for a second because like was that Kelly the Stallion? Am I like one of those people that just think all black people look the same? And I was like, oh my god. I was like, no, you're Kelly the Stallion, right? Like you are. Like I doubled down and she was like, no, yeah, I am. Yeah, yeah. I didn't hear you. And she was very sweet. But like that moment, I was just like scared to death. I was like, oh shit. Did I just like call someone the wrong name right then and there? Someone that I wanted on my show. But no, Callie's really sweet. She's really amazing. I love her so much. I think
Love her.
I told her in her DMs, we got to get you on RuPaul's Drag Race, like eventually. Like
Honestly.
I'm gonna like, I told her I'm gonna be like the torchbearer of you being on Drag Race. Like we got to make it happen.
Period.
I'll go knock on RuPaul's door myself, you know, and then but no, she's amazing. Yeah, like the way you describe also the Bellingham community, it's really cool. Like how
Yeah.
much, like how I see so much of Bellingham, and how cool that scene looks. You know, Rumors Cabaret, like being familiar with all those things, and like this was like even before Faye even moved over there, you know, because like I think I know more of it because of Faye, but even before that, like following Disneyphoria and stuff like that, like Bellingham's so cool, and I really want to go there, you know, like
Yeah.
it's making me really want to go there. I forgot to mention this, but like I was scoped to go to WWU, like Western Washington University for
Oh.
their theater program. Like it was during like a theater festival, the theater festival where I was like dating Faye briefly. briefly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got like an opportunity from there, but I didn't really like it because they didn't have a directing program, and
That's
was
fair.
kind of that was like my interest. But now I've heard about Western Washington University for a long time, and like their theater program's great. Um, but no, I'm glad that you have so many supportive people. Like that's like the most important thing, especially like with art and stuff like that. Like it could be such an isolating experience. I know, like I don't consider what I do with this podcast like art, but like even then, a lot of it's like very isolating, especially because
Mhm.
like once this interview is over, I gotta like edit, I gotta like make graphics, gotta advertise it. I do everything with this show basically. So it's like it could be such an isolating experience. And then like hearing like all the support that it's been getting recently, specifically since I decided to do the drag niche a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I'm seeing a resurgence of like support, and I can't stress enough, like support local drag, but also support all your artist friends as best as you can.
Exactly. Period.
Yeah, but also I like shout out to Sasha Colby and Carrie Colby, all those other people
Oh
that
my
you
God.
mentioned. Like, yeah, amazing
I
people.
met Sasha back in March
Mhm.
and saw her perform.
Ah,
Life changing. Absolutely
I've seen
life-changing.
I've seen her perform before she got on Drag Race, and just because like Carrie Colby, like I loved Carrie Colby on her season, but when she mentioned Sasha Colby, I thought she was on Drag Race already. The way I've heard about that name so many times, I was
Yeah.
just like, wait, Sasha Colby wasn't on Drag Race. But then like she performed here on a free show, by the way. It was free. You didn't have to pay money to see Sasha Colby.
Whoa.
It was free at the Globe for St. Patrick's Day. And I saw her perform and I was just like, this is insane. She is
Yeah.
amazing. Like, this is so cool. Like, she doesn't need to go on Drag Race. And that, like, and ironically, that was the year like she was announced for Drag Race. Like, like it was like the end of December or something like that. I was like, Sasha Colby, like, she's gonna win.
Yeah,
Like,
and she did.
and she did, yeah. It
She
was funny too
steamrolled
because
that
like
competition.
she like I don't think anyone's ever performed as well as Sasha Colby did, honestly.
Like
But
honestly, that's
that's
like a Bianca Del Rio like levels track record of like never being in the bottom. Amazing. She is a
oh yeah,
God princess.
exactly. And that's also I knew Irene before she got on the show too, because I was like, I should follow some Seattle drag queens, and Irene was there, so I was like, oh yeah, the Irene Dubois is also going to be on the season. She's going to go far. And unfortunately she didn't. But I that doesn't diminish her as a performer. I think she's still spectacular, and we need to see her again eventually. Like, fingers crossed. Um, let me see. I'm trying to figure out a good way to end the show, because we talked, like, I feel like we talked so much about you and your
Yeah.
trajectory. I guess, like, let's talk about the future. Like,
Okay.
now that you've graduated, um, and you're kind of like established in Bellingham, what's the future look like for you for a year from now? Like, where do you see yourself being? Do you want to be on like television? Like, is that like the dream? Like, is that something? Because like I know with a lot of drag artists, it's, I think more and more now, it's not something that they're quite interested in
Mhm.
doing anymore, especially like the baggage that being on television comes with. So like, is that something that you're interested in? Um, like, what's the future look like for you?
Um, I would say right now, I feel like I'm kind of like I'm in a really weird spot right now with my life because I'm just freshly graduated and I'm now having to figure out how to be an adult that's not in school, and kind of just how to support yourself 100%, pay all your bills, be able to make enough money to pay all those bills, and yeah, I'm just trying to figure out trying to figure out like my new adult life, I would say, because I'm an adult for like 4 years, like almost 4 years now, and I'm just trying to figure out my adult life now, my new adult life, and I might be looking for a new job because drag is not my full-time gig. It's never been my full-time gig. Um, would I ever do drag full-time? I'm not ruling out the possibility. Um, but right now, I'd probably say like I'm trying to build drag as like a nice, strong part-time gig, as a nice little side income that's like really fun, but also have like a nice, stable job that I can have on the side that I could financially support myself on while also doing drag. In terms of if I would ever go on TV, I don't want to ever say never. I'll never go on TV. I think when I first started drag, like, you know, most of my knowledge about drag was from the very limited community that I had in Spokane, but also RuPaul's Drag Race. And I feel like that was always the question of like, one day you're gonna be on RuPaul's Drag Race and you're gonna slay. And that's kind of what I used to say. It was like, oh, okay, one day I'm working towards get on RuPaul's Drag Race. That's what I'm working towards. But now that it's been a couple years, um, it's not really like a main goal of mine for me right now. I feel like I still have so much I want to learn, and I want to be a lot more secure in my drag and my performing abilities before I even consider going on TV. Also, money is a big thing. I don't have RuPaul's Drag Race money at all. Right now, never say never. um, but yeah, um, I'm just trying to figure out life right now. And I'm open to all the new possibilities that life will bring for me. Hopefully good possibilities. Um, but yeah, yeah,
Oh, oh yeah, and your community will help you get on Drag Race. I
definitely.
know,
I have an amazing
I know.
community.
Yeah, and Faye better, like because she's a costume designer, so I'll make her do
She's there
it.
for me. Trust me, she's there for me.
No, she is. She is. She's like, I don't think there's ever been a moment where she hasn't been there for me either. So, you got community. So I think Drag Race money, you don't need that.
Yeah,
You got it. But no, like that's valid. As someone who has been an adult for 12 years now, I guess, I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I don't. I'm not. I'm better financially than I was like back in March.
yeah,
Like I make $23 an hour instead of 17, so that's nice. But yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, I think you'll always try to figure out what the hell you're doing, as far as
I've
like
learned
yeah,
that.
as far as like settling down, as far as like the queer identity thing, because like you, I've had many faces as like a queer person. It's like nonstop coming out.
Yeah,
Every single time is something different. So and who knows, I'm open for that to even change more. But I think that's a valid place to be in, just trying to figure out where you're going to be. But I think you've got a good foundation. It was like Mr. Miyagi in the Karate Kid Part 3. It's you have a strong base. Like the roots and stuff are not there, but like you have a strong foundation, and so anything will you know grow from that. Like, and it will flourish. So I
exactly.
think I think you're on the right track, and especially like seeing your trajectory as far as like your aesthetic goes, like you've got that down. um
Yeah.
I'm excited to see you be a dancing diva, like work on that. um what else? Do you sing?
I
Like,
wish. I had a little stunt in high school where I tried auditioning for the musical. That crashed and burned.
uh,
Yeah, I do not have the pipes. I lip sync for a reason.
oh, that's fair. Yeah. But no, I think yeah, you're gonna excel at whatever you do. um
Thank
and
you.
thanks for being on the show. Like that's it's kind of cool. Like I said, like you kind of asked to be on it, so like I wasn't really sure what to expect. Like I like vetting people. Like when I reach out to them, I'm like trying to figure out like if we're gonna vibe well or stuff like that. But you know taking a chance on someone I really didn't know too much of, like, and it turns out, oh yeah, Sage is really cool.
Yeah, I like to think
Yeah,
I
so
am.
yeah. But well, I say you are, and like only cool people uh, sometimes have been on the show. We've had to delete a few episodes. Let's just say, you know. So but for the most part, I'd like to think everyone on here is cool to some degree, except the people I had to block, essentially. Very bad. But like that's a story for another day. Um, Sage, we are at the end of the show. We have four questions. I'm hesitant to call them lightning round because Sigourney really um she really what's the word? She read me to filth about me calling it the lightning round questions. I'm like, this is what it's
It's
always been
fun.
called. I don't but it's a series of four. I said four, but I think it's five. We'll get there when we get there. For some reason it's been a bit since I've done it. I forgot how the show works, but it's a series of
Right.
questions I like to guess each and every week. They're fun. They're not so quick, obviously, because it's just more questions. Are you ready to answer them, Sage?
I've been studying and I am ready.
Okay, so you know what they are. Nice. Question number one: describe a perfect day.
A perfect day for me is I have a good night's sleep, first of all. I sleep well, I wake up, I go to I'll say the lodge. I go to the lodge, which is one of my favorite coffee stands in Bellingham. I get a cherry coconut tiki and like a bagel sandwich. I have a nice little breakfast with that. And then I do what I like to call a 360 or a goddess shower, where I just fully head to toe shaved. I am clean. My hair is clean, everything. And then I have plans with friends the rest of the day. I eat lunch at Buffalo Wild Wings. I
Oh,
get a 15-piece sweet barbecue with extra ranch. Um, I love boneless wings so much. Love boneless
nice.
wings. Um, and then I just hang out with my friends, like shopping, or I like play games with my friends. Um, I just love hanging out. I love hanging out with my friends, and it reminds me that like I'm okay. I'm doing okay. And then I end the day with an edible, and that is my
Oh,
perfect
nice.
day.
You mentioned playing games, like video games, I'm assuming.
Board games.
Okay, nice.
I wish I could be a video gamer. I wish. I love it. I used to play Minecraft as a kid. But
Oh,
that was the
nice.
extent of my gaming.
Okay. Well, that's cool. What board
Yeah.
games are you playing?
I love either Truth or Drink or Cards Against Humanity. I love games like that where it's just a bunch of like adult fucked up humor and we just like laugh our asses off. Like as long as I'm laughing with my friends, like I'm having a good time.
Nice. Truth or Drink sounds like a fun game to play.
It's so fun. And the questions get really deep. You learn a lot about your friends.
Yeah, like that would be kind of scary, especially like when you're drinking a lot, like and you're suspicious of like telling the truth a little bit. So, um, no, that does sound fun. God, Buffalo Wild Wings though, I've eaten there recently, and I gotta say, I need to try their boneless because I think like I've been eating the bones one,
Mhm.
and I don't like it. I don't like it anymore. Something about it.
I don't like eating things off a bone, TBH. I just love to just stab it with a fork and put it in my mouth and it's just delicious. Delicious.
Yeah, you know what? My friend has that same thing. Like she's creeped out by chicken bones.
Yeah.
Like I like what is it about it that's like weirds you out?
It's I don't know, it's always been a thing with ever since even since I was a kid. I just bone things with bones on them, except what is it? Baby back ribs. That when the meat just comes off the bone, I like that. But like when I'm dealing with like cartilage and like skin, um, I'm not into it personally. I'm a big texture
Ah,
person. So like if I taste like cartilage in my mouth or like anything like gummy, like meat fat, it's like a really gummy consistency. That's
really
not candy. I get grossed out.
interesting. So you don't like the grizzle like the fat off a steak either.
No, yeah, don't
Wow.
I no.
Yeah. My parents like had this thing where like, oh, it's not healthy, it'll make you fat. And they kept instilling that in my brain as a fat kid. Still kind of fat, but like I've lost a lot of weight. But like nowadays, like I eat the grizzle. I love chicken skin, like off the fried chicken.
Wow.
Yeah. What else do I like? Bone marrow is underrated. Do you like bone marrow?
And I don't think I've ever had bone marrow. I
Yeah.
might try it
It's
though.
Yeah, I mean, like you don't. It comes from the bone, like it comes from inside the bone of like
Hmm.
an animal, but like it's roasted. It's probably has that like gelatin consistency that you don't like, so maybe maybe you won't like it. But it's it's nice. I think the only thing that texturally I don't like is bananas. It's like
Oh, interesting.
yeah, I had a very bad experience. I gagged on a banana when I was a kid. I put it too far down my throat, and yeah, it traumatized me. Like the
Yeah.
smell and everything. Like I guess because like I think I was like 3 or 4, and like I've never experienced that before, and it was just like it just kind of like stuck with me. I don't know. Like I can't even eat like straight avocado because it's like it has that banana texture. It's
Yeah,
just like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
that's not
Question number
fair.
two. Yeah, for sure. Question number two. Describe a song. What's a song that describes your life right now?
New Romantics by Taylor Swift.
Okay.
That song is just basically having a new outlook on life, but specifically on your love life. Just being young, being free, just letting whatever life throws at you, just experience it and know that you'll get through it at the end of the day. I love that song so much.
Nice. I love that you kind of just pulled that out. Like obviously you're a Taylor Swift fan
I studied.
for
I'm a
sure.
big
Uh,
Swiftie.
you mentioned like your love life, like without going like too deep into it. Like how's that going? Like in Bellingham, like what's the dating scene like? Like have you had good experience at all?
Honestly, not. I have not had much luck.
Mhm.
Um, I am single and ready to mingle. So anyone out there, don't be creepy. But yeah, dating in Bellingham, it's not honestly like if you open like the dating apps, it's honestly the same people over and over again, and you just kind of lose hope at the end of the day. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just too busy being a girl boss right now to date.
Yeah, that's
I
more
guess.
important. I mean, it sounds like Spokane to a T. I mean, I would say the queer dating scene in Spokane is like there's nothing, and a lot of it is really just like there's really no place to go as far as like a queer spaces. I mean, Nine is there, but I don't know. It's gonna sound terrible because like I'm probably gonna have someone on the show that performs at Nine. I don't like Nine. I just like
That's that's valid.
it's not my vibe. You know, I've been to so many different like bars and stuff like in different states and it's just like
Huh,
this isn't the vibe. I feel like the Globe
that's valid.
is my vibe, but nowadays the Globe it's like it is for the younger people now. I hate to say it. I hate to say it because like I was one of those people and now I'm 31. I'm like I'm not part of that people anymore. And like I'm fine with like dating younger or whatever, but like it's very clearly younger people, younger straight people. Globe's
Yeah,
yeah, Globe is not a gay bar anymore. And it's very obvious. So um yeah, that those are like the only two places to like meet gay people. And unless
yeah.
you've been like, I don't know, if you've been to the Odyssey Youth Center or something like they have those opportunities because like they're kids. They have the kids have more opportunities than the adults. It's like that's so crazy to me. So I'm like, where are all the gay people? You know, where are all the, adult gay people that are not on the apps that are weird, or the same
Right.
people that don't reply back. But I digress. Sounds like Bellingham kind of in that same situation as Spokane.
Yeah, it's yeah, Faye is my girl who I like talk to about boys because she gets it. She gets it.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's not Bellingham dating scene right now is not the tea. Not the tea.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we find love eventually.
Hopefully
Yeah.
manifesting.
Yes, exactly. Question number three. What is your third favorite movie?
I'd say my third favorite movie is Legally Blonde.
Mhm.
First of all, love Witherspoon. Any movie she's in, love her. Um, I also just love the storyline of like this hyper femme, like blonde, um, seems ditzy, but really isn't like again, hyper femme, all in pink. But she still slays at the end of the day. And I really love that representation of I feel like in our because we live in a society, the society says that like femininity is something that is weak, it's not strong, like you can't be taken seriously and be like a femme person. But Legally Blonde is like when I watch that, I'm like reminded that like I can still be my fun femme self and still be a powerful bitch, you know?
I love that. I with Legally Blonde, it's interesting. Like I know I've seen that movie, but I only remember bits and pieces of it. Like it's I feel like it's been so long. I just remember that her dog was gay. Like that was like a plot point. I think that was probably the plot point of Legally Blonde too, where the big dog was trying to hump her little tiny chihuahua. Like that I don't know why that one stuck to me specifically. Um but I need to watch that movie. I'm assuming your number one movie is Mean Girls because of the first performance that you did was as Regina George.
I would say that's my second favorite movie. My first
Oh,
favorite movie is Labyrinth, but Mean Girls is definitely a
oh.
close second
So
because
you
I love Mean Girls.
yeah. So you love the Muppets.
I
Sounds like
can't say
this
I
is perfect.
do. I just don't consume a lot of that media. I feel like I
Really?
should be a fan,
I mean, you like Labyrinth. I mean, like that's as Muppet as it can be.
honestly. And it's Jim
Um,
Henson too.
exactly. Like I was just gonna say, like, Faye probably like you should talk to Faye about that because Faye loves the Muppets. Faye
I
loves
will.
the
I'll be
Muppets
texting her.
and yeah, Faye loves the Muppets and Andy's obsessed with Garfield.
That checks out.
Yeah. Andy, Faye's boyfriend, who's been on the show before. Before we get to the next question, actually, I do have a funny story about Andy. Would you like to
Yes,
hear it?
please spill.
So I was hanging out with Faye. This was like us reconnecting after like you know, I wouldn't say it was like a fallout or anything, but it was more we just lost touch type of thing after a while. But like she was in town and we got to hang out, and she was dating Andy at the time, and we were just getting back because we were gonna go see a play after our dinner, and she puts Andy on speaker, and she's like, "Sid's here, say hi to Sid," and I was like, "Hi," whatever, and Andy went on this thing where he was like, "Oh, I've talked to Sid, like we know each other," and I was like, "I've never spoken to Andy before," and like I just like I told Faye, he's straight up lying to you. I've never spoken to Andy. This is the first time like on speaker that I've ever spoken to Andy. Like at that point, we haven't even like texted, but like it's so funny because he was so confident that we have talked and met and stuff like that at that point. I don't know. I just like to bring it up because like it was just so funny how confident he was of like, yeah, I know who he is. But since then, I've met Andy twice, and I love Andy. I'll be honest. I think I love Andy more than Faye. Just kidding. Like obviously, I
Controversial
love both.
opinion.
Like I love both of them, but like I feel like I've really bonded with Andy really well. Um, and he's I will say like the perfect match for both of them. Like it's
Honestly.
like they really need each other, and like it's very rare for me to say that about other people, but like they just embody this love for each other that like it's so obvious, and I don't know, like Faye really deserves that. I think no, knowing Faye as well as I have over the years, like she really deserves that type of person, and I'm glad she found it in Andy. So um yeah, that's my Andy story. Like that's the one I like to bring up. It's like to embarrass him a little bit.
Right.
Question number 4, and it is 5 questions, by the way. So
Ooh.
we're two more down. So question number 4: what's your favorite ice cream topping or frozen yogurt topping?
Um, I have I technically have two answers. And
Go
it's
ahead.
a very specific thing I order whenever I order ice creams from Dairy Queen. I get cookie dough with M&Ms.
Oh,
Um, I love again, I'm a texture girly. I love texture. And I love the softness and the sweetness of the cookie dough. But with the M&Ms, it's a nice crunch. It's like I get the best of both worlds. Again, Hannah Montana.
oh
Going
yeah.
back, I get the best of both worlds. I got some soft, sweet, but also some nice crunchy textures, and it's like, oh, amazing.
Oh no, that's great. That's like the perfect combination, I think. Like I that's why I like sprinkles on my ice cream. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
that crunchy with
Ooh.
that soft. Although it's been a bit since I've had like regular ice cream. I've been getting milkshakes a lot, especially with the heat. Like it's just been hitting the
Oh yeah.
spot. Mhm. No frozen yogurt at all. Like do you get like do you think about frozen yogurt?
I haven't had frozen yogurt in a while because we have like one. I think maybe I haven't researched it enough, but like we only have like one frozen yogurt place in Bellingham, and it's not super far from me. It's like a 10-minute drive for me, but like it's kind of out of the way for me. So I don't really go to frozen yogurt too often, but honestly, sometimes I miss it. I miss it sometimes.
Yeah, it's been a while. There was one, I was a student at Gonzaga, and there was, I don't know if it's still there, but there was like a
For
froyo
yogurt?
place. Yeah, Froyo Earth.
Yep.
Yeah. It's been a while, so but I haven't seen that store. In fact, I don't recall seeing it on my last like campus walk. Sometimes I like to walk the campus and just be like, I was here before. Like I spent 5 years here. And it's weird that I can't just go into buildings anymore like I used to.
Right.
Like but yeah, I kind of want frozen yogurt. Maybe I'll stop by. My go-to lately has been Ben and Jerry's though. So
Oh, yeah.
mhm.
The Ben& and Jerry's is really good too.
It's the best. I think a little pricey, but I love it.
It's
The
worth it.
teenagers that work there, you could tell like they hate their job. It's really interesting because it's the Ben and Jerry's inside River Park Square, and it's the Ben and Jerry's teenage employees that are there, and it's the teenagers up at the AMC theaters that like I get what I get with the service. Like I'm not at Disneyland right now trying to like get the
Right.
best customer experience, but like it's just really interesting that you could see it on their face and like their body, just how much they hate being there.
And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. Retail
Yeah,
and food service, not the tea.
yeah, especially like the Ben and Jerry's people. Like you always see a line of like 10 people and always one person working that entire Ben and Jerry's, and it's just like I don't blame it. I would have quit if I saw that and just like walked off.
Yeah. And especially with food service, I am like extra nice to them because I have a lot of friends who work food service, and I have heard horror stories of what happens when you don't treat them right.
Yeah, spitting in food. That's what my dad used to do when he was working food service.
I don't blame them.
Um, yeah, exactly. Um, Question number five, the most important question on the show, returning question. One that I wanted to shelf initially, but here it is. We're gonna ask it again. Which side do you choose, the left Twix or the right Twix?
Is there even a difference? When you
You
put it
know,
in your
the
mouth, it's like, what do you get? You just get caramel
yeah,
and the chocolate and the what's the difference?
you know, Big Twix likes you to think there's difference. So I think one side has more cookie, one side has more caramel. But the
Oh,
thing,
oh, I know
no,
that.
well, not for real though. Like no one's really like we'll have to like put science into it. That's what the grant will be for, like to put science into Twix technology and see if there's a difference. But that was an advertisement along at this point. I think it's been years. I don't think I haven't heard that in a while, but like they promoted the fact that like the left and right Twix was different, and I just like to play around and just be like, do you think there's a difference? So which side would you choose?
Remember correctly, I thought it was like the order in which they layer everything. I thought that was um the difference, the
It could be.
difference.
It could be. It could be. But it's also artificial candy and like fake stuff. So
All the same.
it's probably all the same. But if you had to choose, which one are you digging into?
Uh, I don't know. Right, just I don't know, right Twix just it's speaking to me. It's internally and just speaking to me for some reason.
I love that. That's a very good answer. A lot of people pick right because they're right-handed. Um, some people like playing politics into it, and they say, "Oh yeah, the left Twix because left." I'm a lefty, so. Um, but you know, I think if I recall correctly, someone said like, "I'm gonna choose the opposite of what I was gonna choose at first." So if I want to choose right, I'm gonna choose left. You know, personally for me, whenever I go to Disneyland, I I think the left side is right, you know, as far as
Mm.
like when you have to like merge, like the left side is always like the emptiest at first.
Oh yeah.
So I always go left.
That's smart. That's really
Yeah,
smart.
it could be the other way around. I could have just like totally made that up, but you believed it. So
I'm
um
not ruling it out. And it sounds about right.
exactly. Well, Sage, we're at the end of the show now for real. Thank you so much for being on. Um, where can people find you? I will have your socials in the description of the video below on all audio and video platforms everywhere. But why don't you plug them in the video here and then like other places where people can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. That's kind of where I'm most active right now. That is at sage.valentine. Sage like the seasoning. And then I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. Um, on YouTube, you can actually find some recent performances and also some like really old performances back at the pin. A lot of different videos. Uh, I also you can catch me most Sundays at Rumors Cabaret at Drag Me to Church. I'm one of the rotating hosts. So if you're ever in town, we have a drag show, a community drag show, if you will, at Rumors Cabaret. We fundraise for Lifelong and Planned Parenthood. So if you want to support local drag and also support some awesome organizations, come by. You can see me around Bellingham. I post on my story whenever I have shows. I have a broadcast channel on Instagram. Um, yeah, you can find me on all those platforms.
Yeah. And if there's any hotties out there that wants to take you on a date, we'll have your phone number at the bottom of the
My
description
DMs are
below.
open.
Basically. Thank you everyone for watching the Rewind here at the Wayward World podcast. Excited to be back. We have amazing drag performers that are coming up, and hopefully very soon we're going to have amazing, like I don't know how to describe them, but like they're mostly like performers, I would say.
Ooh.
Like I have some DJs in mind that I also want to bring on. So we're gonna have a lot of different nightlife entertainment for you here, and maybe something different. As long as they're gay, I don't care. So I know,
Period.
like, yeah, I know, like I've said, like, yeah, drag performers, like, come on through. But you know, I'm open to anything that is queer nightlife. So I'm very excited for a couple of people that I have in mind. So stay tuned for that. And without further ado, Wayward Artists, it's been real.